part of the Press Play Podcast Network.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for stopping by. What's good, everyone? Welcome to Sabol Brothers on the Baseline Podcast, all part of the Press Play Podcast Network. This is a very cool episode, one that if you haven't already, find us on Twitter at our Twitter handle, at Sabol Brothers, because there's a lot of pictures of this next guest that can coincide with our conversation here. You know, you guys listen to us. We talk a lot about the history of Cleveland sports. Sometimes when we interview guests, Scott and I like to talk about memorabilia, not like a signed autograph, but like random things, a stadium.
Quirky little things. Yeah.
And Scott, boy, do we have a guest today. This is Sean Walsh. He is a retired construction and demolition man in Cleveland. And he helped demolish Cleveland Municipal Stadium. He also helped in partially, I don't want to say demolish because it wasn't demolished, but partially remove the renovation projects of Progressive Field and Cleveland Browns Stadium, or FirstEnergy Stadium, rather, when they did the renovations over the last 10, 15 years. And also was one of the last people to step foot in the Richfield Coliseum. This man, if you don't know anything about him, he has a website, originalstadiumseats.com, for the last 30 or so years. His whole career, Scott, was, besides being a construction worker, was taking these old stadium seats and signage and selling it online, and it blew up.
Right. And, you know, we're going to talk with him about how he even got started with this. I mean, how do you go from a guy who, you know, like a construction worker, a guy who does demo, how do you go from just a normal everyday guy to somebody who deals in stadium seats and memorabilia? We're going to ask him that and see how all that kind of developed over time. And we're also going to talk about, and we're doing this interview, by the way, in his basement with all his stuff around. Again, a lot of pictures. You can check it out on Twitter. It's going to be a great conversation. We'll have more right after this.
Hey everyone, this is Mike Voorhees.
And I'm Brian Shaw. No, not the pitcher. We're the Guardians of the Land MLB podcast, formerly a Swing and a Tribe.
Don't have time to watch 162 games of baseball? We do. We have you covered with recaps of the games, stats, and analysis throughout the MLB season.
Subscribe now to Guardians of the Land and Press Play Pods for all your Cleveland sports analysis.
Hey everyone, I'm Holly Wetzel.
And I'm Jeremy Powell.
And we are your hosts of The Orange is Oranger, a Cleveland Browns podcast on the Press Play Podcast Network. We give you all the dog pound coverage that you'll need each week to get you ready for kickoff and beyond.
Don't miss our breakdowns of each week's matchups, game recaps, and any and all news out of Berea to feed your Browns appetite. As we all know, Holly, dogs got to eat.
That's right, Jeremy. Hit that subscribe button and never miss an episode of the Orange is Oranger Browns podcast on the Press Play Podcast Network.
Hey everybody, it's Sam Amico from Cavs on the Break NBA podcast. Be sure to give us a listen for all your Cleveland Cavaliers recaps, analysis, breakdowns, draft talk, free agency. The list goes on and on. Give us a listen, Cavs on the Break NBA podcast.
Welcome back to Sabol Brothers on the Baseline Podcast, right here on the Press Play Podcast Network. Our next guest here on the show is someone that I've known for the last 5 or 6 years, and somebody that I've been talking with Scott with for a long time. And if you like Cleveland sports, and if you like memorabilia, or if you just like history, then you're going to love this guy. His name is Sean Walsh. Sean, thank you for joining us on the podcast. We're currently in your basement.
Yes.
In Cleveland.
Thanks for coming on
location for the first time.
Nice.
By the way.
Nice.
Absolutely. And here's the fun thing about Sean. You guys can't see this, but we'll post some pictures to our Twitter link too. But in Sean's basement is a wealth, a treasure trove of memorabilia, not just in Cleveland, but beyond, in other sports stadium seats, signage, pictures, and all that good stuff. So Sean, welcome on the show.
Well, thanks for having me here, guys, and welcome to my house. My grandma dubbed this the Shrine when she was alive. God bless her soul. She called it the Shrine. So it's a 50 years in making, pretty much. Yep.
So Sean, man, where do I start? Let's go back to your background.
Yeah.
Okay, let's start with your background and how you got started in acquiring what you have.
like any old kid, we go to the ballpark and you pick up a bobblehead or whatever. So every year I started collecting that stuff. I got into construction, went to Comiskey Park. They were tearing it down 1991 or 90. Foreman says, Sean, thanks, Bob, here's a memento. Comiskey Park seat. Okay, what am I going to do with this?
Right.
Take it home. Next thing you know, a couple years later, Jacobs Field's being built. I says, well, maybe we'll get some seats when we tear down the old stadium. Right. So, and then pretty much it took off from there, Scott. I was dabbling in stadium seats, like Tiger seats, but nothing like on the scale that I had now.
It just kind of snowballed from there.
It really did. And for every year that I've been in the business, it's gotten bigger every year.
Let's talk about the demolition of Cleveland Stadium. I remember being there as it was being demolished, because I worked in Cleveland at the time, and walking in there, honestly, it was one of the eeriest feelings I've ever had, standing in the dog pound. And I was the only one in the park. It was cold. It was about a year later. That was just my personal memory. But take us back. You're going through you guys are tearing down the park. What was going through your mind at the time?
Well, the first thing was you notice there's no signage. It's everything's empty. It's like gloom. It's like, wow, it's like a bomb hit inside here. Very eerie, because that was my childhood playground. Being only 7 miles from the ballpark, we take the bus down there. So it's like, man, I'm tearing this place down. We didn't know if the Browns were coming back. It was almost like, I had tears in my eyes. Like, man, I'm tearing down one of my playgrounds. And then, the NFL kind of gave us a team. We're going to do this. So everyone got happy.
I remember standing in the dog pound, and the grass was still there.
Yeah.
The Browns were faded. It had been a year since they had played.
Yes.
And there were still the faded Browns. It was
eerie, yeah.
It was very eerie.
Now, when we got in there,
yeah.
we took it in there, and the first thing I did is I went back to my seats, but I took out my old seat at the last game.
Okay.
We liberated that at the last game. But I went into the old section where we sat, section 60, and just looked over the field. Right. And it just took it in for, I don't know how long it was there, and just, I couldn't believe it. Like, wow. And I'm here tearing the place down. And it was very eerie. I couldn't describe it any better than you did. I mean, very just.
You were in that stadium hundreds of times.
Hundreds of times.
Hundreds of times.
Baseball games, football, concerts, the World Series of Rock. Oh, my God. Well, I remember those anyway.
But you've been there so many times, your playground, as you call it, and then all of a sudden you're tearing down your playground.
Yeah, it was eerie and very sad. It was like, at the time we didn't know the Browns were coming back. We were promised, blah, 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 whatever. And we're tearing it down. Are we ever going to? We knew we were building a new stadium. We knew that. I got on the construction of that. But tearing down the old ballpark that was there for my whole life, literally, from I was 8 years old with the old man taking us down there. To us driving the bus when we could. And I was at the last game. I was at every, important game there.
Talk about some of the big elements of the old stadium that you tore down. I remember, of course, the big Wahoo, right?
Yeah,
Wahoo
that came down.
Things like that.
Well, Wahoo came down right shortly after the Tribe left. So 94, he came down. And it was Brilliant Sign Company that took the Chief Wahoo down. And the curator at the museum, I think it's called the Corrado Offert Museum. It's called something different now. They said it would never be able to make it down because it deteriorated. Well, these guys from Brilliant Sign, they lassoed this thing, and they got to the ground. They're lowering it, and glass is just raining down. He's falling apart. So get it to the ground before he's gone. They got it to the ground, and they took them and they refurbished them. It took about a year and a half. Private donations, because no one wanted to pay for this. And he sits there proudly, like 1962, just like the way he said it at the museum now.
Did you have a chance to walk through the old in the rooms in the park that you had never been in?
Never, especially like the locker rooms. You guys have, obviously maybe been in the locker rooms. I never have been. And we're turning out the locker rooms. It's like, man, how many ball players have sat in these seats? I mean, football, baseball. It was hard to imagine, and how small it was. I mean, and they had a little step. They would go up to the other side where they would throw the rookies in this little, like a closet almost, like a locker room. Like they had 4 or 5 lockers in there, but they were skinny lockers. They weren't the big, wooden lockers.
Yeah, we've talked to former Browns and Indians players about the interior of that locker room and how small and cramped it was, and how there was no running hot water and all that stuff. Hey, back to your Chief Wahoo thing that Scott brought up. I wanted to ask you about. So you were there the day.
Yeah, we were down there, and they needed, workers to be there. But Brilliant Sign guys, pretty much, they handled the whole deal. And we were there basically for cleanup.
Sure.
If it destroyed the grid, it came down rain, it was us for to kind of scrape them off the ground.
Now, when you brought it down, were you guys, when the glass was falling, that was probably from the neon, correct?
Yeah, all that stuff was deteriorating. That's what the curator says. You'll never make it down here. And it did. It was pretty much 80% intact. Yeah. And it came out great.
But the one sign when you tore down at Municipal Stadium that did not survive was the old Browns sign.
The Browns, it caved in as my buddy Jimmy was up there Lance burning, and it just crumbled. It basically gave way, and everyone's like, oh, well, we couldn't save it. It caved in on itself.
Was there a fire?
That was Jimmy. What
did Jimmy do?
What did he do?
Well, he was the lead burner because he was the guy burning like the beams, the giant beams and everything.
Oh, okay.
So he's up there burning away, and the fire guy is down there.
Well, and this is right in center field, right in the middle of the field.
Well, he starts his fire, and the fire guy gets out of control. Well, on the news, it looked a lot bigger than it really was. And I'm yelling, "You're burning my seats, Jimmy! What are you doing?" And so we got that under control. It was all over the news, and yeah, it was a big fiasco. So we had to buy beers and stuff for about a week.
You didn't lose out that bad for you.
But it was one of those things that you had to be on top of things because there was wood everywhere.
Yeah.
And once that lead-based paint started on fire, then the chemical guys had to get involved, and it was nasty. Because it was like plume of smoke was pretty nasty. So.
When you look back at the interior of that stadium, when you went through the locker rooms, was there anything in there that surprised you besides how small it was and where the rookies were in that small little closet, as you call it? Yeah. Like, was there anything in there that you were like surprised about, and also anything that was left in that stadium, not just in the locker room, but other places in that stadium itself that maybe were left when they tore it down, that was a lost.
Well, the carpenter shop and the paint shop I got into, So it was kind of odd that they had like 55-gallon drums of the blue paint, the yellow, mustard field yellow paint, the brown paint. They had all that, and I found the stencils to the seats. I found everything. So people was like, "Sean, what are you doing?" I go, "Nothing. You guys have at what you're doing. I'm doing this over here." Yeah. But yeah, because I was already into the game. And I figure I'm going to take all this memorabilia that I can because no one cared. They grab 1 or 2 seats for their family. Yeah. I'm taking rows of 4. Every day I took 36 seats out of there. And in the back of my pickup truck, I get 6 rows of 4 and some singles and throw it in there.
And you'd refurbish them, right?
Yeah. And from day one, I was restoring them. My sister has the first one, actually. She got the first one. She wanted them originally, they were green. And then they were like a light blue color. And then mustard field yellow, and then a brick brown. So...
The stadium seats that you got from Municipal Stadium, how many did you grab, you said?
300 rows of 4.
Oh, wait, 300 rows.
What?
So everybody had a wedding, a bar mitzvah, a divorce, a funeral, got seats from me.
So that's 1,200 seats.
Yeah.
Out of
and I would have got more if I didn't have a bonehead, and I could use that. It's a nice word.
Yeah.
For a general foreman. He didn't like the idea that I'm making money without him. He was a scrap king. He wanted it scrapper.
Right. Where did you store those seats?
In the backyard under a tarp.
How big was that pile? Bigger than your garage?
The whole backyard was full. I'd have to cut the grass for a year. And then I moved them into the garage, and then I had a storage unit. But literally, you think it was to last forever? Under 10 years, they were gone. Yeah. Literally, were gone. Because, I was just giving them away, and people were buying them left and right.
Right.
Wow. Left and right, they were buying them. And I wasn't selling them for a lot of money.
Yeah.
And people loved them. And I said I was shipping them all over the country. You name it, there was Browns fans. You know this, Browns fans everywhere.
Sure. You told us when we were in your garage when you were showing us some items, the farthest place you have shipped a seat.
Yeah, to a marine in Guam.
Guam.
He had to have this seat, and he was a Marine.
And when did you ship it?
That was like 97, 98.
Oh, okay. So like
right when it first came out.
So what? Couple $100 to ship it?
Yeah, it was like $400. I think because I might even still have the receipt. It cost him more to ship it than I bought the.
Did you ever try to rework the numbers to see what it would cost now to ship?
Oh, it'd be over 1,000 because it's ridiculous.
Especially with COVID and everything.
It's up 70% now. That's why I'm telling people, hey, if you can. if you're a state away, come and get the seats because it's not worth it.
Yeah, gas money's nothing compared to that.
Nothing.
So around that time, so we're going back 25, 26 years ago. They're tearing out the
96.
stadium, 96, 97, 96.
Hard to believe.
So at that point, and we'll talk more about your collection here in a little bit. At that point, what percentage of your collection did you have? Were you like at 10% of what you have now?
Oh no, I was probably over 50%.
Oh, really?
I've always collected the balls and the bobbleheads and stuff like that. But I had like 4 seats at the time. You know, from like Tiger Stadium, Wrigley Field, and I think it was Mudhead Stadium. I had one.
Oh, in Toledo.
Yeah, and then after that, I got into a contact with a guy in Boston, my buddy George, and he's a seat guy. And next thing you know, we combined forces. And it blew up. The stadium seat business blew up. It really just took off year after year. So not only just Cleveland seats, I was getting jobs on different demolition jobs. You know, I go up to Pittsburgh, you know, and I met a foreman up there. I wasn't allowed to work up there, which their union rules. But I met the guy. I said, I need how much for a pickup load of seats?
Right.
How many you need?
Right.
I'll be back tomorrow, and I had a caravan of trucks going out there.
Wow.
And there was a lot of Pittsburgh fans around here. I go out to Dallas, same thing. Get Dallas, you know, Cowboy seats from Texas.
Did you work on the demolition of any other parks aside from
Yeah, Milwaukee. We went and then Cincinnati. I actually physically worked on now.
Riverfront Stadium.
Yeah, Riverfront. Yeah, it was FirstEnergy Field, I think, at the time.
Mm-hmm.
But those two, you know, I worked on physically.
What about the Coliseum?
I knew guys working on there, so all those seats were bought up to a minor league hockey team up in Canada. And that's where they all, because a lot of seats are hand-me-downs.
Right.
And like minor league ballparks, that's where we found a lot of seats. And they're just like uniforms. They hand you down from the minors up to, you know, majors to the minors. That's how seats were.
Did you ever go into the Coliseum before it was torn down?
Yeah.
What kind of items were left in there?
Not much. The seats there was a mismatch of the folding seats that they had, you know, so people were grabbing those. But the signage is all gone. I have no idea because I don't remember any kind of sale, to be honest with you.
I don't either.
I don't remember anything. And I regret it to this day. I had a pair of seats I got from a guy, and someone gave me an offer, as they say, you can't refuse. And I says, okay, I'll help you carry them out of here. And they sat right there, to be honest with you.
Oh, man. Cleveland Arena?
That was the Cleveland Arena one right there.
Yeah,
right, but did you help tear that down?
No,
okay.
That was in 77.
Yeah.
I was in 8th grade.
Okay. Oh, that's
9th
right.
grade,
Yeah, I didn't put the math on that one. Yeah.
And then that sign's from Cleveland Arena, too.
Yeah.
Yeah. And people find me a lot of times because of my website, Original Stadium Seats, and I'm on Facebook everywhere, and people find me.
Yeah.
It's more than anything. They find who, you know. That's me in my Bobcat at Fenway Park.
Oh, yeah.
Taking out bricks and stuff.
Oh, man.
That was the other. I forgot about Fenway.
Yeah.
So what did you do in Fenway? Was it?
They were doing like tearing out facades and, you know, just tuck pointing and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And I worked for a company named Walsh Construction. My last name is Walsh, so you know, it was easy. It was an easy hire, they said.
That's funny.
And I kept the hard hat. I got that for a souvenir.
Very cool.
Yeah.
When
it was just short. It was short lived, like 3-4 months here, and it's, you know,
So your job before you used this as a hobby and actually as a job, you were a demolition.
I was Labor's Local 310.
Here
I got in 1984.
Here in Cleveland, and you recently retired from that.
Yeah, 4 years ago.
4 years ago, and you also were instrumental and helped do the renovations at Jacobs Field, now Progressive Field, and Cleveland Browns Stadium, now FirstEnergy Stadium as well. You helped tear out seats there in the last few years.
Yeah, we did that. We had to take all the seats out of Browns Stadium back then and had to caulk behind everything because it was leaking like a sieve. We threw that place together so fast. It was a terrible job. You know, the time restraints that you had to have, it wasn't built right.
So here we are, 23 years later.
5 major renovations later, and we're still pouring money into that place.
How long do you think the stadium will last?
It wouldn't have lasted 20 years if we didn't touch anything.
Really?
All the walkways, all the concourses, all brand new. It's just.
How about now?
No, there's still. It's like a round the clock thing. You don't hear a lot about it, you know, because there's always somebody fixing something in there. It's made of cast in place. Basically, it's a giant sponge that sucks in all the weather, and it sits on the lake. So no matter what you do to it, you're not going to waterproof.
Do you think they're going to have to tear that down?
I would hope so. God, yes. And let the guys now do it right. give them 5 years. Let put a dome on this thing. And we got this thing up in like a year and a half, 2 years. Pouring concrete when it's 0 degrees outside. And, you know, we're working 70, 80 hours a week, 7 days a week. You know, these guys, there's no reason for it. But the NFL got us under the gun, and that's what it was all about. People wanted their football. To me, I would have said, let them go. They stole it once, you know, see ya. Get us a new team, expansion, boom, you know.
So you think that stadium, it's a constant
renovation.
Constant renovation.
Yeah.
It's a money pit.
It is. It is always going to be one. Just the way it was built. There was no coating of the rebar when they threw it into concrete. There was no time for that. You know, it's ridiculous.
Do you think in the next 20 years, if you had to guess 15, 20 years, that's still there?
No, I would hope it's not. We're just going to pour our taxpayer money down that hole. That's all it's going to be.
Yeah, it's something's got to give, basically.
Let the owner pay for it. Yeah. Or buy yourself a new stadium. I'm sick of paying the sin tax they said it was going to last 2 years.
Seems like Progressive Field's in better shape.
It is, and it was built right. I was on that build. Not saying I was there, but it was built right. It was done correctly. You didn't pour concrete when it was 0 degrees outside, and it was built right. So that'll be around for a while.
And same thing, of course, with Gund Arena and Quicken Loans.
And I also did renovations at League Park. Now, we turned that place into Fannie Lewis. I had to give her credit.
Right.
She pushed that thing through.
I remember that.
She was like, you got it. And we renovated this. We started in 92, and they ran out of money. And then they got some more funding, and they went back and redid it. So now high school teams play there and such.
It's a beautiful facility.
It's beautiful. I love that. Babe Ruth hit his 500 home run there.
And before we walk around here and show us some of your items, we want to maybe highlight your top 3-5 items. I want to ask you one quick question about League Park. Did you go into League Park before 2000 when the grandstand was still there?
Yes.
Because I think correct me if I'm wrong, they tore out that portion of the left field third base grandstand in 2002-ish?
Yeah, 2002 we were there for Brahma construction. I'll send you a picture of me on the facade, hammering out the facade where it stands out today.
Yeah.
We were fixing it, and we were taking out the old bricks and then putting in new stuff.
Was there anything in the old locker rooms there? I know it was all mostly caved in. It's just cavernous. It's just,
It was really nothing. It was already, it went through the Huff riots and that stuff. So it was all pretty much burned out. A lot of this stuff was. There was a little office for the Huff Community Center that they had in there. That was about it. But they found a lot of stuff which was next door. And the guy that is the curator now, he found like bleacher seats in there.
Across the street.
Yeah, across the street.
Wow.
He wants to open up a candy ice cream stand back there. And the old councilman was giving him a headache. Now the new guy in charge wants him to do all this. And he's a real nice guy if you ever get a chance to walk through there. Bob Zimmer, very nice guy. He used to own Sizzler's Jewelry on East 4th. Negro League Museum, pretty much, he's got a lot of stuff in there. He constantly. I donated a League Park seat to him. He's got one in there. He's got the bleacher seats from League Park, though. They have little humps on them. They're made of wood. So your keister's here. There's a little piece of wood. The keister's there.
Like a little divider.
Like a little divider, and it was humped up. It was made of wood. About an inch high. They were great.
And let's walk around here a little bit. Before we get up, Scott is sitting next to a League Park end figural seat. This is what people would call the holy grail of stadium seats.
Yeah.
Mostly because of the end cap or the end aisle because of the
a baseball bat, a ball, and a first baseman's made on the side, intertwined with ivy. You can move the ball bat out of the way, Scott.
Oh, that's all right.
Yeah, it's just one of the craziest stories of how you acquired that.
That's got pine tar on it.
That's Dave Winfield.
No way.
Yeah.
So you've got this in the find in Vermont.
That one. But this one over here, the first one I found 20 years ago. Well, it found me, came out of Hinckley, out of the garden I was telling you about.
Yeah.
But this was the find in Vermont. Yes.
In the find in Vermont. 5 guys, including yourself.
Yeah, the mafia.
the stadium seat mafia. Basically, what happened was you guys were alerted that a barn in Vermont on a farm stored League Park seats, about 30 of them in 5 rows?
No, there was 7 rows of 6.
Okay.
And some had 5. But each row had the figural end on it. And the guy contacted me again. I didn't find this guy. They found me. Hey, would you be interested in these Negro League ballpark seats? Okay, yeah, the Buckeyes played there.
Sure, yeah.
But he just kept saying Negro League ballpark. And I says, well, the Indians played there too. And I says, yeah. He goes, well, we contacted these other seat guys. And I went, oh, no, So we made a conglomerate. Instead of building against each other,
going in together.
Everyone went together, and everyone got a figure-leaded seat.
Nice.
And my buddy George, he lives in Boston, and he went and picked them up for everybody.
Right.
And everybody took a trip to Boston in the summer and picked up their seats.
Nice. And that was one of your end
that was one of them. Yeah.
So you had one end seat.
Everyone got one aisle end seat. Everybody did.
And you would say that seat is the hardest stadium seat to find.
It's one of them, or the Palace of the Fans in Cincinnati seat. One of them. That's
120 years old. Right?
Yeah, 1902, and this is 1910. So yeah, I mean at the time, League Park seats were like non-existent. Other than I had the only one that anybody ever seen before, and then we found these. Now the Baker Bowl in Philadelphia is probably the number one.
Right. Okay. I read about that.
And you just don't see them.
No.
You just don't.
Well, I know just from talking with you and doing my own research that when they demolished League Park in 1951 or 2, all those seats then got repurposed in a minor league team in state of Washington, right?
Spokane, yeah. And a lot of them were up there. That's where a bunch of seats migrated. They found some seats. Every now and then you'll see one. I said, that's from League Park. And they'll say, well, the minor league ballpark that was up there. I go, no, those are League Park seats. Because as far as I know, that I could be wrong, but I've never seen another seat other than League Park that had that type of figure.
Sure.
And so I don't know if they were existent other ballparks.
Yeah.
Now, minor league ballparks, I would say that they were League Park seats, repurposed like they do, for 100 years now.
Do you think those seats are still in that stadium in Spokane?
No, it's been torn down already. It's a done deal.
When did that happen?
Well, they tore out all the seats. Kinnick Stadium was called.
Kinnick, okay.
Not like where Iowa played.
I was just going to say that name sounds familiar.
And they tore all that stuff down because we got wind of that too. And my buddy Rosank got a St. Louis, another seat guy. He said, Sean, did you hear about the League Park? He's like, oh, no, now where? They're coming out of the woodwork.
Yeah.
And I said, a couple were found up in Spokane. I go, that makes sense.
How long ago was that?
2000s.
Oh, yeah.
2000s, yeah.
Good deal.
It's been, and I still think, 1980 was 20 years ago, and I can't forget. It's 40 years ago.
You're still having flashbacks of the cardiac kids of the Browns, right?
Right in front of me, too.
All right, Sean, let's walk around here and show us some of your prized possessions. Like, give us your top 3 to 5. Obviously, League Park seat is one of them.
Yeah, these right here, the League Park seats, and I have to go with, the Palace of the Fans seat. From Cincinnati, I'd have to go with number 2.
Before Crossley Field, right?
Yeah. This is 1902 to 1910.
Okay.
And they built it with all wooden structure, and then Crossley Field opened 1912.
Cleveland Arena seat here.
Cleveland Arena seat, that would be number 3 for me.
Okay, go ahead. Number 2, I'm sorry.
And then number 2 would be this one,
okay.
League Park. And then I love my Notre Dame bench. He's in the top 5. So just Sean, I'm Irish. Pretty much, I love anything with the figure-landed, like the batting tiger from Tiger Stadium. I love those seats. Figure-landed seats from Comiskey Park. Anything with an ornate something, or those are my type of seats I want to collect. And a lot of ballparks didn't have them. I don't have my Polo Ground seat in here. It's in Boston. I have to go get it. It has the big NY on it. And,
some of the seats you have up here, like you got Otto Graham's signed seat, you have a Frank Ryan seat, Larry Doby.
Brown, Larry Doby, Hammer and Hank Aaron.
Right.
Yep. We got to meet Larry Doby at Jacobs Field. That was nice to do. But yeah,
is there a seat that you're still looking for?
Baker Bowl.
A Baker Bowl.
Yeah.
Would that be the one? If you found Baker Bowl, you have your Polo Grounds. You find Baker Bowl.
Is that your Holy Grail seat?
Well, right now it is, yeah. But there's ones from Sportsman's Park I'd like to get.
Right. St. Louis, right?
Yeah, and I sold mine that I had. I had it, and you get rid of it. But I'd like to get rid of some of these in here, and then maybe put the Sportsman's Park seat. But Baker Bowl, Sportsman's Park seat is pretty much it for that. And those are hard ones to get. I'm going to pay a few grand for them if I do find them. So,
if you were to find a League Park seat and someone were to try to buy it, or you saw someone selling, for people that aren't familiar with the market value of that, what would that run?
Well, I've turned down $8,000 for it. And we were selling just the one figure-landed seat from the 5, because some guys Cleveland didn't mean nothing to them.
Right.
So they sold it for $6,500 for the one seat with the figure, and they kept the middle of the aisle seats.
Yeah.
So they didn't care. Basically that's what it is.
Yeah. Yeah, it is just simply incredible. How many seats do you have currently right here in the basement that we're looking at?
There's 54, I think, down in here altogether. Yeah.
Jeez, the combined
benches too.
The combined ages in all these seats are approaching what, 1,000 years old?
Oh,
over that.
Wow.
I see you got a ticket booth or ticket box from the old stadium.
Yeah,
right?
the old stadium. I liberated that after the auction. Everything up's for grabs, so I took some of those. I wish I would have grabbed more of those.
Yeah,
because people want those. They're pretty cool.
Because they're easy. I mean, they're easy. They're boxy. They're rectangular. You can put them anywhere.
Well, and it's cool too. You have
and they come apart too. It's a 2-piece thing. It comes apart.
And you've got a Milwaukee County Stadium turnstile.
I took that out personally when I was up there.
That's cool.
That and that seat over there.
Yep.
We got like 30 seats out of there, 6 turnstiles, some signage.
It's cool. It's cool when you walk down here. The first thing we got to do, we have to go through the old turnstile.
Counted, and you get counted on the way out.
Now, did you reset the counter when you bought it?
Yeah.
You did?
Yeah. So I don't know what it is even now. I have no idea.
Your counter's at
$15,695.
That's about right.
So
I go down here every day, so it's in and out.
so we were what, Scott? 15,667 and 68 because you just went upstairs for a second. They were counted. And Scott is currently standing on the on-deck circle of Chief Wahoo from Municipal Stadium.
Yeah, that's old Municipal. Yeah.
Wow.
I know.
And you got the Braves with them.
Yeah, I know Cleveland fans aren't going to like this, but I know you're a Yankees fan too. Is that right?
Yeah. Ever since Thurman Munson, after Ray Fosse got destroyed,
right?
I was a catcher growing up, and it just happened to be Thurman Munson. And they stunk when I was a kid.
Right.
They were no better than the Tribe.
Right.
But of course, I love the Tribe. But I've been a Yankees fan since '73.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah.
It's being from Cleveland, obviously we don't like the Yankees, but you kind of you
my
can't
friends hate.
You can't help but not respect the history. You know?
It's like Notre Dame football. It's just history.
Sure.
You go to Wembley Stadium. It's history.
So, is there, aside from the stadium seats, is there a couple of unique pieces here that might not be seat related that you're like, that I'm seeing things here, but that stick out in your mind? It's like, wow, I'm glad I got that. That's really cool. Other people might not have.
Steve Olin autograph the year before the accident.
Yes.
I got that, and then an autographed baseball at Wahoo Winterfest. They go down 6 weeks later.
Right.
He got killed.
Wow.
And I got his autograph, and then the last day at the stadium, my buddy Gary and I, he's got old VHS tape or beta, might even be beta, of us walking out of the stadium. Minnie Minosa in a car. And I yell at Minnie. He rolls down the window. I brought a bunch of baseballs. I was getting them autographed. He autographs the baseball for me through the window because we're walking by. He's in a jam coming out of the players' parking lot behind the stadium. And Gary said, "Only you, Sean." I go, "That's Minnie Minosa." I had to tell him the whole story. So I got his autograph. But those kind of stick out where
you're not.
I'll never forget that. I'll never forget that in my life. He goes, "Who's that guy?" Minnie Minosa, play for the Tribe.
Yeah. Well, what else is Scott's referring to in terms of items down here? We have a ton of catcher's mitts, baseball cards, bobbleheads, bats, bases.
Did you say shin guards?
Shin guards, yeah. And there's some other random signage down here, like the Cleveland Arena signage of like what row you're in, or the box of 126, or. You've got stuff from Durham, North Carolina, where the Durham Bulls, a AAA affiliate of the Tampa Bay Rays, and you have
Fenway Park, Section 68, made of wood.
Oh, I didn't even know that was from Fenway. Yeah,
Fenway Park. Yeah.
You got the Miami Dolphins third baseline sign from inside of that stadium. So there's quite a bit of interesting and random stuff, not just in Cleveland here, but of all sports too.
And it reminds me too, I got to bring my old catcher's glove because you said you could at least. It's so faded. I think it was my dad.
Actually, I'll clean it up for you too, and we'll figure out. We might find a name on there. It could be a player's model. Because I always we clean them up before that kind of stuff.
Well, Sean, this has been a treat for us. I know you and I have exchanged emails and talked on the phone over the last 5 or 6 years, and it's been awesome to actually see this in person. Pictures that you have on your website, originalstadiumseats.com, just do not do it justice.
When you're walking down the steps, I mean, there's anticipation.
Yeah.
And I'm walking down, and I'm like, oh, this is the real deal. I mean, it really is. This is really cool.
Well, I appreciate it, guys. It's been, like I said, 50 years of love. It's just, I come down here, I can look at the autograph mitt, from so-and-so, and Gordie Howe's game used glove up there, signed by him.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's, I don't even know how much that would even be worth, to be honest. There's some museum pieces down here that I think the seats are worth more than my house. I know they are.
Yeah. Well, anybody that would be interested in having a seat maybe refurbished, or any questions regarding seats, or if they want any maybe, I know you refurbish and also kind of manufacture old pieces of stadium seats for like Christmas decorations and other little pieces as well. Where do they go to find that?
We have originalstadiumseats.com. That's my website. And then I'm all over Facebook, stadiumseatrenovation.com. And then Original Stadium Seats also on Facebook, but mostly on Facebook nowadays. The website, I'm changing formats where I'm just not selling them anymore. Mm-hmm. I'm just restoring them. I sold all my stock of seats, and I'm just going to restore them for people that bring them to me now.
Sean, it's been a pleasure. Thanks very much for having us over into your museum, your man cave down here.
Grandma called it the shrine.
Grandma was right. Sean, thanks so much.
I appreciate it, guys. Thank you.
John, that was fantastic. I mean, standing in his basement, seeing all this stuff. I mean, I thought I had a lot of stuff when I walk into my basement. It's not even close to the stuff that he has, and all these cool stadium seats. The one stadium seat, that I saw, and he told me about it, was the stadium seat. It wasn't a Cleveland seat from the Palace of the Fans. It was a stadium seat from a stadium that was demolished in like 1912. Do a Google search on Palace of the Fans. There were only like 12,000 in existence, and he's got one of them in his basement among all the other ones.
Yeah, and when he was showing us that, Scott, I forgot he had that because he had it on his website of one that he wasn't selling, but one that he just had as like his favorites, and he looks beautiful. Refurbished it years and years ago. Mm-hmm. Fantastic. Probably the most rare seat you can find. I think right now, as Sean said.
No question. He was saying the other one too is Baker Bowl, which was a stadium that's been demolished. That would be the other one of the Holy Grail seats that he'd love to have, that he doesn't. But anyway, just a really cool conversation with him. And man, he's got so much cool. I love the story. Real quick, John, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, go ahead.
But we're asking him about, and you can go on Google and see the fire that happened at the old stadium when they were demolishing it. And right now, again, the video makes it look like it was worse. And what he goes, oh yeah, that was my buddy, da 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 da. And he has a story about why his buddy, he did something, and then a fire started, and he was right there during the whole thing.
You know what's funny? As a kid, I remember on the news stations they had the video of the fire and the construction or the demolition of Municipal Stadium, and I remember seeing it, and I forgot about it. And then when he said it, I'm like, oh my God, I kind of remember that. And I go back and I find clips on YouTube, and I'm like, there it is, And then Sean was so concerned about, well, don't make sure that fire doesn't burn my seats.
Exactly.
And yeah.
He's got he's a big Yankees fan too, and I know that's kind of sacrilegious here, but he was a catcher growing up when he was in high school, and so he's got a lot of cool catcher stuff there in the basement. But the holy grail of all those stadium seats was he's got some League Park seats.
Yep.
He's got a few of those, and we kind of touched on this. I would imagine we've touched on this in the past too about where those seats came from. They were found in a barn up in New England, and he tells the story about how he was able to get his hands on some of those stadium seats that honestly most people didn't even know existed, and to try to find them now, I mean, there's even more rare 20-30 years later.
Yeah, the League Park seat is one that I've always loved, and I've seen one at the Baseball Heritage Museum, which Sean touched on, which is where League Park is now, or has always been, but the museum is in the old ticket booth now. Any baseball fan or Cleveland fan listening to this that have never been there, I strongly urge you to go. It's a fantastic little venue there where the Indians' first stadium was, but also has a lot of old memorabilia. They have a League Park seat there. I think Sean said that he donated that one.
He donated one. Yeah, that's right.
And it's in a glass case. So this is the first time when we went there. I was so eager. I was so excited. That was the first thing I wanted to do, because I've been talking to Sean for about 5 or 6 years, through email and through the phone. And I wanted to see his League Park seat. I wanted to physically touch it. I wanted to see the end figural design that Sean talked about, because I would love to own one of those days. It's the one seat in my Cleveland Stadium seat collection I don't have, but it's a pretty penny.
It's a little pricey.
It's a little pricey, for a seat over 100 years old. And let's just be real. If for whatever reason I found one, would I ever sit in it? No,
probably not. Yeah, I'd put it in a glass case and then put it
Yeah.
in the in the basement somewhere. But
Yeah.
no, it was a great
Yeah.
it's a great conversation with him. And real quick, the other thing too, he's got a lot of those seats that are signed by like Larry Doby, Ozzie Newsome, all these big names,
Jim Brown,
that have either passed away, or a lot of them that normally don't sign autographs all the time.
Yeah, and think about it. I think he had, was Otto Graham another one? Did he have
Otto
there?
Graham was the other one. Yes,
Yeah,
correct.
and Otto Graham and Larry Doby are no longer with us, and who knows how long we'll have Jim Brown here. But yeah, he had a phenomenal collection there. I was excited to see your look, Scott, because I knew just from pictures that Sean has on his website and stuff, and ones that he's posted on some Facebook groups, I knew what we were getting ourselves into. I didn't know the scale, because pictures, you can't really tell from a picture, really.
Right.
But I had an idea. And I didn't know that if you knew what you're getting yourself into. So it was no fun. Idea. It was fun for me to look at you and to see your reaction and just take it all in, because
I had no clue.
This was right up your alley. And I kind of undersold it to you a little bit because I wanted to get your natural, like raw emotion reaction. And it was awesome.
Yeah. I mean, how he could cram that much stuff into that small of a basement is beyond me, but he's done it. And he said he still has stuff that he hasn't displayed. But anyway, it was a great conversation. And he's another guy who could talk forever. And he's got stuff up in his attic too that he hasn't displayed that would be really cool to see.
Yeah. And one other thing here before we wrap this up, Scott, I love the story that he was one of the guys there that tore down, or didn't tear down, but helped take down the old Chief Wahoo that used to be above Municipal Stadium.
Yes.
That is now preserved in the Western Reserve Historical Society building,
Correct.
I believe.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was really cool that he was one of the dozen or so guys there to help take that down. And
right.
And
then
then
the Brown sign too, it fell apart.
It fell apart, right, unfortunately. But they salvaged, I think, the cooler one, if you want my honest opinion about it. And plus, he gave us insight on the new FirstEnergy Stadium that's now approaching over 20 years old and what the future could lead there. So great wealth of knowledge there for Sean Walsh. Thank you again, Sean, for letting us into your home and showing us your treasure trove of items. And thank you for listening. Real quick here, thank you for downloading and subscribing. If you haven't already, do that on Apple and Spotify. You can follow the podcast at Sabol Brothers on Twitter. You can follow me at John_Sabol.
And me, it's Scott Sabol, FOX, the number 8.
And hit that subscribe button and give us a review if you can on Spotify and Apple. So that'll wrap it up here on this edition of Sabol Brothers on the Baseline podcast right here on the Press Play Podcast Network. Thanks so much for listening, everyone.